Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. It is Marilyn Devonish here from transformationstm.com. And I am very, very excited about this one. It will be my first interview for 2019 as part of the In Conversation With series. And to kick off the year, I'm going to be interviewing the New York Times best-selling author, Gregg Braden. Now, for those of you who have met Gregg before, for those of you who know of his work, you will already know how completely profound he is. And I just want to share with you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. I'm going to open with just an extract from one of the books we'll be talking about, his latest book, which is Human by Design. So let me just read a little bit for you here. So it says, Human by Design invites you, hold on, not what we want. There we go. Sorry about that. Mobile phones. Human by Design invites you on a journey beyond Darwin's theory of evolution, beginning with the fact that we appeared on Earth 200,000 years ago, even more empowered and more connected with ourselves and the world than scientists have believed possible. A growing body of scientific evidence has overturned 150 years of thinking when it comes to our origin, capabilities, and perhaps most importantly, our potential. The bottom line, modern humans appeared on Earth 200,000 years ago with extraordinary abilities such as intuition, compassion, empathy, love, and self-healing already in place, rather than having to develop these abilities slowly and gradually over a long period of time. He also then goes on to talk about the kind of latest advances in DNA and says recent advances in DNA analysis show that the current theories of our past cannot explain the complexity, timing, and precision of the genetic shifts that make these uniquely human abilities possible. So we owe it to ourselves to embrace the new evidence, the story it tells, and the healing it can bring to our lives. And on the webinar that I'm going to be running next month, we're going to be talking about some of life's big questions, like, who are we? Why does that even matter? Why is it important? We're going to talk about some of these kind of theories that have started to overturn the scientific thinking of the last 150 years. Gregg also has some really interesting theories and thoughts on Darwin's theory of evolution when it comes to human beings and why there is a problem with that theory. And also talking about the reluctance, generally speaking, of accepting what is potentially the new human story. He's also very big on what we call chromosomes. So he's going to be, we're probably going to talk about a lot of stuff, but this is just to give you a flavor. The mystery of chromosome number 2, the mystery of human chromosome number 7. And just, he is really, really fascinating. And also, he's probably going to be talking a bit about also why it would be important and what the impact would be if young people were taught this information in school. So there's going to be a lot that we're going to be talking about. So looking forward to it. And in terms of myself and Gregg, where we first met, if you're watching this in real time, that's coming up just over 2 years ago now, and I was the host and MC for a conference in London called the TCCHE, the Conference for Consciousness and Human Evolution. So my job was to, kind of run the event for the 3 days, introduce all the speakers, did a series of interviews before the event even started, and interviewed all of the speakers privately on camera. And Gregg, as you can see, there's, some of you may know Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Lynn McTaggart, some really fascinating scientists, astrophysicists, you name it. This is like a stellar group. Oh my God, the minds of these people are incredible. And so Gregg was one of the people that I interviewed during that time. And it was just kind of, we had some really fantastic conversations during the interview, because I did all the official questions in terms of, what did they want me to ask? And then I said to all of the speakers, are you okay if I ask you some questions of my own? And so we went, you know, off on various kind of tangents and things, and always fascinating. All speakers are fascinating, and if I can, I'm going to work my way through that list at some point and interview them all. And I just thought, you know, some of the conversations Gregg and I have had, both, you know, on camera and off camera at sort of, you know, dinners and that sort of thing, I just thought it would be really, really wonderful to invite some of you all into those conversations so that you can be part of it, you can participate. The webinar that I'm running in January is going to run for an hour, and so my intention will also be to take questions from the audience. So for those of you who are on my e-newsletter list, do make sure that you have the link. I sent it out yesterday if you're watching this in real time, so that would have been Sunday, and I put a link in there where you can submit your questions if there's something that you actually wanted to ask of Gregg on the day, and I'll do my best to get through all of those. But yeah, so it's going to be a good one. I already know it's going to be a fantastic conversation, just based on, you know, as I said, you know, the hours of just kind of sitting and talking about, and really talking about life and the universe. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Actually, let me put that into the, let me just see if I put, let's see. Oh, that one. Oh yeah, this one was quite, and I'm going to ask him about this actually, see if he remembers while I'm on the subject. At one point we had all of the speakers on stage, and there's like 550 people in the audience, and I'm going through and I'm working my way through all of the speakers. So, you know, every one of the speakers is on stage, so they're all sitting, they're all lined up, and then there's me with the microphone, and I'm asking questions of each of the speakers in front of the audience. And at one point I get to the it was Bruce, actually, Bruce Lipton. I think I just finished Lynn McTaggart, and Bruce, and I said, all right, Bruce, your questions. And Bruce says, have you got questions for all? Have you got questions for me? He said. And if you know Bruce, he's so lovely. So he's like, have you got questions for me, specifically for me? And I went, yeah. And so I asked the first question. He went, oh, great question. He's answering the question, and then just out of nowhere I just hear this voice, and it was Gregg. And he said, where did you get these questions from? And I was like, oh God. And in my head I'm like, oh my God, why is he asking me this? What if he doesn't like the questions? Because I don't think I'd gotten to him yet. I was working my way down the line. And so in my head, all of this is going on about, oh my God, why is he asking me this question? And I thought, I've got to be honest as well, because what had happened, the person who organises the TCCHE event, he said, he sent some questions. Well, no, he didn't send any questions through. That was the thing. He said, can you do these interviews? You'll be interviewing from, I think it's something like 11 o'clock in the morning, right through to 4 p.m. And I want you to interview all the speakers. I was like, yeah, cool, no problem. I woke up that morning at 3:30, the day of the interviews, and I was like, oh my God, what if there are no questions? And I've looked at all their bios, because of course I'm going to be on stage introducing everyone. And so at 3:30 in the morning, it was a Friday morning, I'm sat in bed, put the light on, and I just get a bit of, you know, get some paper, and I just start, you know, almost like automatic writing, thinking of what I knew about each speaker, because many of them hadn't met before. And I'm just writing questions that I think would be relevant to them. And then I go back to sleep for a couple of hours. And so now Gregg is asking me in front of 550 people, where did you get these questions from? And there was no tell in his voice as opposed to, is he asking for a good reason, or is he asking because he's going to go, let's forget this, let's just go to the audience? And so I said, well, I have to be honest with you. I said, I made them up this morning at 3:30. And he just looked at me and went, wow, amazing, fantastic, and just sat back in his chair. I was like, whew. And for me, that was one of those living embodiments of what I call photo reading, and being in that accelerated learning state, because it was just a download. It was like, there is not much time. I have to, you know, I have to be getting up at like 5 a.m. anyway. It's already 3:30. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Just in case, let me have these as backup. And funnily enough, when I got to the event, the guy who organizes it, he said, oh, I've got questions for you for the interview. So he hands me a sheet, and I was asking the same questions of everyone so that they can, you know, cut the interview and have the same question being answered over and over again if you want to put that onto one show reel. So that was fine, but we did have time afterwards. So I actually asked a few of the questions after the interviews, and all of the speakers were like, oh my God, that's an amazing question. Oh my God, that's a fantastic question. Oh my God, that, and they were just like, wow. And it was questions that clearly they hadn't really been asked before, even though they're being interviewed a lot. I mean, one of the speakers, the doctors, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, they consult on Hollywood movies. And so they're used to that sort of thing, and they were all saying, wow, the questions are fascinating. And so that was one of my first kind of interactions with Gregg, where he'd stopped the show and said, where did you get these questions? And yeah, and we just, you know, just had the most fascinating conversations after that. So what I will do, Mark Fisher says, great job, can't wait for this series of the interview. Please join me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put into the conversation thread the link. So it's if you want it, the tickets are free, but it really would be useful if you register in advance, so we have an idea of numbers and I can choose then which platform I'm going to use. And also, because it's a month away, then what I'll do is I'll kind of email you, of course, the details of how you can log in, and I'll send you some reminders nearer the time, because we're working in time zones. So it's going to be 1:30 Mountain Time, which is 7:30 p.m. UK time. And I know then when we span time zones, people get a little bit confused sometimes. So I'll send you the reminders as long as you've registered, because you don't always see stuff on Facebook. I saw something the other day that was actually quite important. And I saw it 3 days after the close of the deadline. So, you know, register. And so the website is www. Actually, let me pull that up as well so you can look at it at the same time. Let me do that. 1 second. There we go. So it's www.Gregg, and Gregg is G-R-E-G-G, Gregg Braden, B-R-A-D-E-N. So www.greggbraden.eventbrite.com, and that is where you can get your tickets if you would like to join us for the event. And yeah, it's going to be amazing. I already know it's amazing. It's like a done deal, because if it's anything like our conversations over dinner, you know, and behind the scenes, then it will just blow your mind. So please do join us. That'll be amazing. And if you know anyone who would, you know, benefit from this conversation, who is a fan of Gregg, or if you're interested in the evolution of the species, then feel free to share the link to the Eventbrite page, like and share this video. That would be fantastic as well. And let me just give you a little heads up of the book, should you want to check that out. Let's see, there we go. So that's Gregg's latest book. For those of you who follow Gregg Braden, you will know he is a prolific writer, writes for Hay House. So that's the book that we're going to be kind of basing the conversation on, and I'm pretty sure we will go off in a number of directions as well, because when I was, you know, both watching Gregg speak and also went to his workshop this year as well, he did a one-day workshop after the 3-day TCCHE event. I was just like, oh my God, I was like, oh my God, but he's talking about this, and that's the science behind that, and that's the science behind Imagine Gratitude Group, and that's the science behind synchronicity, and that's the science behind what I've been doing with neuroscience, and oh my God, that explains photo reading. And it was just like these massive light bulbs just going off everywhere. So the stuff I've been doing in the kind of, you know, in a practical sense, and showing people how to do it and taking people through various things, he was then talking about the science behind it. And so it was a really, you know, fantastic kind of mesh and synergy of those ideas of both the practical, the scientific, and the metaphysical, and what some people would call the intangible, because there are times you just cannot explain how something happened, why something has happened, how it could even be possible that, you know, you could have a thought and say it to someone, and then like 5 minutes later it happens just as you spoke it. I call it with my clients the speaking it into existence. you know, and how can it be possible to you know, photo read a book that you've never seen before from several miles away, several hours before you've arrived at the event. And I've had that happen to me as well. I was going to an event with alternatives. It was actually called a secret book launch, secret book event. So we didn't know who the author was. We didn't know what the book was, didn't know anything. All we knew, I mean, even where we were going was weird. It said the O2 shop on Tottenham Court Road. I'm like, why the heck are we doing a book review in the O2 shop? It's a mobile phone shop on Tottenham Court Road. So there was nothing to hold on to. And on the way to that event, a voice in my head told me the page number and told me the question to ask. And it was almost like when the first thing happened, I was on the escalators at Tottenham Court Road, and I actually looked around because it felt like somebody had just said something to me. I was like, what the heck? And then I arrive at the event, I sit down, and the room is like a long shape. So I feel as though I'm sitting at the side of the room. It then turns out, as everybody fills up, there's a woman sitting next to me with a clipboard, and I thought she was an assistant. It turns out she was the mystery speaker. So she put the book in front of me, and I'm sat there the whole time. I'm looking at the book, and I'm, you know, really wanting to know what was on the particular page that I'd had in my head. And in the end, when we had a little break, I said, what's on page? And I asked her the page number. She said, I don't know. I said, do you mind if I have a look? And I pick up the book. I was like, oh yeah, that's just what I thought it would be. Close the book, put it back down. And that day I'd done something really weird with a client, never done it before, have not done it since. Very specific process. It just came like a download. And we were getting around the circle, and Mary Daniels was hosting the event. And simultaneously, Mary and I spoke at exactly the same time. When Mary started to say, we will close it there, at that exact moment, our words came out at exactly the same time. I said, oh, I do have a final question. And so they landed at the same time. The author then said, oh, Marilyn, that's fine. Let's take your question. And I asked her a question, and she said, oh, I would do X, Y, Z. And it was exactly what was in the page of the book. It's exactly what I did with my client. And it was just one of those crazy, you know, synchronicity moments. How would I know what the page number was? I'd never seen the book before in my life. How would I know what was on that page? Because I pretty much listed it word for word. It's exactly what I'd done with my client that day. And so when you have experiences like that, when I was listening to Gregg at the TCCHE, as he was talking, I was thinking, that's the science that kind of underpins that. And that goes some way to explaining X, Y, Z. Now, science, as we know, for those of you who operate in the world that I do, at the moment cannot explain all of those things. However, it is still really fantastic when you have a bit of an insight, because I'm not being funny. And I said this to a client very recently. I could stand up and say something, or a man in a white coat could stand up and say something, and people would be much more inclined to listen to and believe the man in the white coat. That's just the way society is designed at the moment. And so when people like Gregg are out in the world really kind of, you know, looking at the science behind this, if you want his bio, it's on the Eventbrite page. I also wrote a blog today which gives you a bit more information about Gregg as well. I'll drop that into the conversation thread. But you know, when kind of somebody in a white coat or talking about science, you're talking about facts and figures and, you know, concrete stuff, people are much more inclined to listen to and believe that than they are with, you know, a metaphorical story. And even when people are there, even when they witness these things, even when I will say something or write something and then bang, it happens and it unfolds, or I will do a reading for a client and I will say, you know, you're going to be offered 2 jobs, they're going to be fighting for you, you're going to have to make a decision right then and there. And then a few months later, they go to an interview, they get offered the job, they're on the way home, they run into their old boss. Their old boss says, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm doing an interview. Oh my God, you're free. Offers them a job at the same time. Now you've got 2 people fighting for them. And she sent me a message saying, it is just as you said it when you did the tarot reading for me. And there's stuff that I've had with clients with, let's say, future life progression, where one of them in the session saw a white stone house on a hill with 2 entrances, one through which the public can enter. The following year, she purchased a new house, white stone house on a hill, 2 entrances, one through which the public can enter. Another of my clients doing that, we did a future life progression session. She saw a guy who could help her with her business. she said she wasn't visual before we started. We start the process. She says he's wearing a black suit. Then she goes, no, actually, it's a deep blue suit. I'm laughing to myself now because she's just been moaning that she's not visual. The process isn't going to work. And then she sees the guy, deep blue suit, pink tie, matching handkerchief, very shiny shoes. His name was Paul. He works with high net worth individuals. Sends me a late night email saying, have you please check the notes, and like 20 exclamation marks. She'd been to a meeting that day. The guy makes a beeline for her, wearing the exact suit that she'd seen in the Future Life Progression session, wearing the same color tie, matching handkerchief, the same shiny shoes. His name was as we spoke it in the Future Life Progression session. And when she went to his website, very minimalist website, and basically the strapline said, I work with high net worth individuals. Now, when you have that kind of stuff happening, you can't, in general terms, explain it. But then you listen to Gregg and you listen to some of the other speakers that I've met at the TCCHE talking, and you go, that kind of, that explains it a bit. That gives you some sense, that gives you some insight. And it's like, okay. And now for me personally, I've been doing this long enough. I started in October 2000. So if you're watching this in real time, it's been 18 years so far. I do not let the lack of scientific information and knowledge stop me enjoying the unfolding of these seemingly miraculous, magical things. However, I know for some of the clients I work with, particularly when I'm moving more into the corporate space, I know that it's useful for there to be facts and figures and things to back this up. And so, and because for those of you who know, Gregg spent many, many years working in business before kind of moving into the kind of more metaphysical side of things. So it's, my intention for this interview, it's going to be a blending of those two things. So for those of you maybe who are coaches, trainers and consultants, as well as those of you who are interested in science, working in business, engineering, whatever it might be, my intention is that it's going to be a lovely blending of the two. And providing food for thought on both sides. So if you do please sign up. It's going to be an amazing conversation which you can join live, and that would be fantastic. Hold on, I've just seen. So Louise Cara says, put my name down. Love Gregg Braden. Read many of his books, and you are pretty amazing yourself. Can't wait. Oh, thank you so much. And Louise, I would definitely say, because there's going to be too much for me to track. So go to the Eventbrite page, greggbradeninterview.eventbrite.com. Sign yourself up there, and then that just means that when I send out the invites, when I send you the link for the webinar, when I send you the reminders, you'll be definitely on the list, and you can get all of the information directly, because I will of course share it on Facebook. But as I said, the algorithms are such that you don't always see these things unless people are liking and sharing and commenting. They tend to fall off the end of the news feed. And for those of you who are on my e-newsletter list, I will keep you updated. And for those of you who are on the list, I put a link in yesterday if you wanted to submit a question for Gregg. And I'll see, I can't guarantee what we're going to get around to, because the thing that is very apparent is Gregg and I can talk for England when we get together. And so, but, I'll definitely try and put a few of those questions in as well. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you in advance for joining myself and Gregg Braden in January for the first of the new year in Conversation with Marilyn Devonish series. Yeah, it's going to be super cool. Really looking forward to it. And as I said, feel free to like this video, feel free to share this video, and please do also share the Eventbrite link as well. It's going to be a case of the more the merrier. And I'm always just so excited for people to have this kind of information, and particularly it sounds a bit cliche, but cutting edge, whatever you want to call it, having access to that for me is always hugely exciting. And those of you who are in my membership group, for example, that we have themes that run throughout the month. We started Motivation Monday, something to get you kind of motivated and moving. We've got Tarot Tuesday, where I do tarot card readings for anyone who wants one. We got Wisdom Wednesday, and that Wisdom Wednesday for me, because if you you can't see what I'm looking at here, but with regards to kind of Gregg, one of his strap lines is wisdom traditions. And so those guys in the membership group will know that the Wisdom Wednesday pieces are very much like this. We're often delving back through the ages. You know, we're going back as far as Aristotle and Socrates, as well as kind of more modern day stuff, you know, Catherine Ponder, Abraham Maslow, you know, Andy Warhol. We've even had Jennifer Lopez in there. And so what I'm doing is delving into that wisdom and bringing it into practical application. So for me, what we're going to be talking about with Gregg is very much in alignment with that. And it's also going to have a flavor of the Think Tank Thursday for you guys who are in the membership group, where it's a consultancy piece where you can ask me anything you want. And we do that as a Facebook Live. And then we got Focus Friday, Sharing Saturday, and Soul Food Sunday. And I think for me, as well as the Wisdom Wednesday piece, what we're going to be doing with myself and Gregg is definitely going to be tapping into the Soul Food Sunday aspect as well, because that is nourishment, and that is food, and that is expansion, and that is evolution for your soul. And so I'm super excited on so many levels, because it touches on so many of the things that I do. And it's going to be a fantastic interview, even if I do say so myself. So thank you for watching. Thank you for everyone who has already signed up. Thank you for those of you who will be joining us. Marilyn Devonish here. I will catch you all later. Bye bye.